Well, Philemon, it is so good to just talk with you today. We are going through all of the different groups and individuals in Navigator Chicago, and you are up next for our friends or donors or supporters to really be able to hear what you do and get to know you a little bit. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Hey, now look, we were just talking beforehand. You spend half your time with Navigator Chicago, but tell those who are listening, what else do you do? Because you are in a room at work right now. What's the other part of your life?
Yeah, so I do work part-time with the Chicago Navigators, and as you know already, serving in a part-time role as their Associate Director of Operations. At the same time, I do have a full-time job here at Pacific Garden Mission.
Yeah.
Some may know of it, some may not know of it, but it's located right in the South Loop on Canal and 14th Street. It is a homeless shelter. And, you know, one of the aspects about Pacific Garden Mission that many may not necessarily be aware of is that we don't just serve as a homeless shelter, but we have other programs available that are specifically designed to care for the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the mental health of our clients. And so we serve drug addicts. We serve those that are simply trying to start a new life and let go of the old way of living. So overall, we have about 7 programs here in the mission, addressing all of those needs.
Philemon, how did it all start? I know both you and your wife went to Moody Bible Institute. Were you guys born here? Tell us a little bit about your life.
Yeah, it's a little bit, different things going on. So I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and was there till about 13 years old. My father has been involved with Campus Crusade and is currently still involved with Campus Crusade. And so during his tenure, he decided that he wanted to study at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. And so he grabbed all of us and we moved here to the States and settled in Vernon Hills. Went to Vernon Hills High School, and after 4 years, made the decision to attend Moody Bible Institute. I ended up majoring in theology and went on to pursue my seminary degree. Now, while I was at Moody Bible Institute, I did meet my wife, Janelle Hayibor, and her parents are missionaries in Chad, West Africa, and they've been there for a little over 32 years now. She finally moved to the States when she was 18 years old. Mind you, she went to high school in Cameroon as well, so she spent 4 of those years in Cameroon. And she was born in Australia. So when we came together in holy matrimony, there's a whole mix going on here in regards to just the cultural dynamics as well as the cultural diversity that we bring to our marriage. We have 2 little boys, Ashriel and Rainin. We had them while we were going through seminary. And mind you, while I was in seminary, my wife was actually serving as an administrator for the Navigators, specifically for Jay. And when we had our second, she decided that it was just too much for her to do that. So I went ahead and applied for her position and started out in a part-time position, just 10 hours a week. And that gradually grew to 20 hours as my responsibilities grew as well. Now, while I was in seminary, I also applied to work here at Pacific Garden Mission. Again, I wanted to be in ministry, and the ministry opportunities here at the mission is vast. And, I do praise God for that.
Where did you go to seminary, Philemon?
I went to the seminary at Moody Theological Seminary.
Very good. I went there as well, too.
Awesome. That's great. It's a great school.
When you were in seminary, you had the option of working in the church or what made you decide to say, well, I want to work with navigators as well as Pacific Garden Mission? What made you decide to change routes, or in some sense, were you ever interested in working in church?
That is an excellent question. When I went to seminary, I did have every intention to get into full-time ministry of some kind of capacity, specifically in a local church setting. Now, of course, going through seminary, having a wife and a firstborn, there were needs that came up. The bills had to be paid. And so I had a friend who was working here at the mission, and he reached out to me several times, letting me know about the opportunity that opened up at Pacific Garden Mission. Now, I've never been involved in homeless ministry, nor have I ever had an interest in working at a homeless ministry. However, I said, you know what? It is a job. It is going to be able to provide for my family. And so I picked it up as a part-time job, serving as a program counselor. Now, while I was at Pacific Garden Mission, I was still pursuing my studies with the same plan in mind to work at a church or in a church setting. However, the responsibilities grew. I went from working part-time to a full-time program counselor to a full-time assistant manager, and now as a manager for our New Life Discipleship program. So, as time went by, the responsibilities grew, and my interests developed as I was here. And, one thing that kept me here at the ministry is not just the love for the people, but this is a perfect setting for me to be able to exercise all the giftings the Lord has given me. Again, the same with the Chicago Navigators. I needed a part-time job to be able to fill in the gap that would have taken place if my wife left her employment there. So I picked it up. And so the Lord has been using me in these two ministries, and it has been a blessing.
Talk to me about your role as the Associate Director of Operations. What happens on a week-to-week basis? How do you come alongside some of the staff over in Navigator Chicago?
Yeah. So, again, the role started out as primarily an administrative role. And we all know what that is, just, keeping constant and continuous communication with our staff members, organizing and planning events. I was also on a couple of teams, like our communications team, our gathering team, and I was just primarily serving in an administrative role. Now, while I was working with Jay and the leadership team, they identified certain key leadership traits, but also just giftings, administrative giftings that the Lord had given me. And so, of course, they promoted me to a associate director of operations. And really, it's a whole gamut of things that goes on with this position. First of all, I am on the Chicago leadership team, and I'm not just there to take notes, but I'm also there to be able to contribute to the strategic plans that are discussed in those meetings, and also to be able to provide input from an operational standpoint. So we're thinking of, from the financial aspect, and how the strategic plans do align with our headquarters in Colorado. Part of my position too is just working as a liaison between Chicago Navigators, and also working with Beth Brown, who is the director of operations at headquarters. So, just communicating what it is that the city needs with some of our administrative and operation personnel at headquarters, and just having that back and forth communication. So the finances are really a big part. Being a part of those conversations are also a big part of my position. At the same time, too, I am responsible for managing our, communications with our staff, and also just general communications with our donors in regards to events and activities that are happening here in the city as well. And so that's just an overall gist of what my role entails.
Philemon, I get it, right? I mean, I went to seminary in the same exact seminary that you've been in. We probably didn't take very many classes on leadership or operations or strategy implementation. I don't even think we took ever a class on budgeting how to read spreadsheets.
I agree.
Ministry setting, a lot of times I work with a lot of ministries as well too, is the emphasis is on discipleship and one-on-one. And so sometimes the operations in the details of an organization that is so prominent in the corporation, and I built cell towers for about 12 years, which is one thing that kind of is ignored or deprioritized because a lot of people just don't have the passion for it. And so having someone who coordinates with corporate in Colorado Springs, but coordinates with all the teams to make sure we are implementing in an efficient way is so key to the plan in Chicago.
Yeah. And you know what, to add to that, I just don't want others thinking like this is it's on a small scale. Not at all on a big scale. So, you know, again, you bring up that good point. I didn't have any training per se to be able to do this professionally. However, again, Beth Brown, who serves as the operations director for the Navigators, she's spent a lot of time investing in me and helping me learn how to, handle the responsibilities that I'm given here. Also, you know, my directors and have been very gracious to me as well. So it has been a learning experience here with the Navigators.
Philemon, let me ask you two quick questions. One, operation-wise as well as implementation-wise, what are some of the key things that will be key for you guys to look at in 2020 for Navigator Chicago going to 2021 on the operation sense in light of COVID-19?
You know, one of the things that comes to mind is that we have to ensure that we are making sure that we're meeting our strategic goals for the city. And so, you know, working along with the leadership team here in Chicago to ensure that we are putting all the plans in place to bring about our strategic goals. And that is, you know, making 1 million disciple makers and also exercising superb discipleship. Now, all of that involves, planning gatherings specifically on Zoom. Zoom has been a place for us to gather and meet. Though it's not ideal, it's important that we have that contact point as well. And also ensuring that we are able to raise the necessary funds that we need to be able to function fully as a city. I mean, we're talking about, you know, staff subsidies and how do we go about submitting good plans to be able to subsidize some of the income of our staff here for them to be able to do ministry, and also just organizing ourselves financially to ensure that we're meeting all of the needs that our strategy requires. And so that is in a nutshell what all of those operational responsibilities would require.
Philemon, I get it. Besides Navigators, I help out and lead and run Resource Global. I also run Together LA and a business in Jakarta. Your job and my job is we have to monitor cash flow. We have to constantly, the unsexy part of ministry that no one always wants to talk about, you're looking at costs, but you're trying to figure out how much do I spend to grow the ministry, but then how much do I have to keep in reserve? And at the same time, back in the days, 4 or 5 month reserve was good. In light of COVID-19, where all your donors are struggling, you have to sit there and say, how do I cut expense to build up a 6-7 month cash flow? How do I bring in revenue? Where can I grow? Where can I cut? Where can I invest money? You have to ask those questions in order to develop your strategic plan.
Yes, very much so. And it's very important work. I often I view myself and the position in which I'm in as primarily a support role. I know that's not what the title says, but really that's how I view it. Serving the staff here in Chicago, trying to answer the questions that staff may have, or meeting the needs, the more administrative or technical needs that the staff may have. And so that is also in addition to just managing the budget as a whole. So I view that that supportive role. Yeah.
Philemon, how many hours a week do you work for Navigator Chicago?
It varies. There's some weeks I'm able to get that 10, 15 hours in, and some weeks I'm putting in 20. In the beginning of this year, actually, and even last year, I was consistently putting in 17 to 20 hours a week. But of course, as COVID hit, those hours have decreased to a consistency of 14 to 15 hours a week.
What neighborhood? Where do you live here in Chicago?
I currently live in Jefferson Park.
Got it. And what church are you attending?
I attend Mayfair Bible Church.
Very nice. Last question. Yeah. What is it about Navigator Chicago that encouraged you today as we sit here?
The primary thing that comes to mind is the fact that Jay Newhart, who is our city director, has such a heart and passion for people. And one of the things that he did was just create the opportunity for me to be able to grow and for me to be able to develop into the worker that God desires for me to be. And what's crucial about that is, Jay has mentioned over and over again, we're not just developing you for Chicago, but we're also developing you for whatever it is that the Lord will do in your life in the future, because it is about the church. And so that is one of the things that really appealed to me regarding the Navigators. Secondly, the Navigators genuinely here in Chicago have a heart for the poor. It has a heart for the oppressed. It has a heart for the marginalized, and it has a heart for seeking justice here in the city. Yeah. And so, they continue to, just plot through that. It is a difficult task, but it's something that they consistently try to do here in the city.
Philemon, let me ask you an operations question. I know a lot of times each of the staff has to raise their own support. For you, if people want to support what you're doing and your role at Navigators, are they able to support you personally, or do they just fund the Navigators Chicago budget when they go to the Navigators website?
I would say it's funding the Chicago Navigators. I am paid hourly. My role is an administrative role. At least that's how it's viewed from headquarters. And so I've been paid hourly the last 3 years that I've been here. And so I don't raise personal funds per se. Yeah.
I am very encouraged by our conversation. So Philemon, thank you so much for, it is just an integral part of every single ministry to really be able to look at operations, finance, communications. So thank you for your work in Navigator Chicago.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time, and I hope that it will be a blessing to others.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right.